Hello, my name is Patrick Kleins, and I am joined today by Rodney Jones. Rodney Jones is the president of the NAACP in Manatee County. Rodney, thank you for taking the time and initiative for getting together with me and taking the time to talk about what's been going on in Manatee County. I appreciate it. So I met you at a meeting in Manatee County, and you were giving an open response about what was going on from the DeSoto Bridge. Can you tell me how this whole thing started with the DeSoto Bridge?
A few years back, probably about 5 years ago. First of all, let me give a disclaimer. I can speak more freely as Rodney Jones myself, and so I always divorce myself out of my seat as the president of it. They're one and the same person,
Right.
But I divorced myself out of the seat because the NAACP has a lot of rules and regs, and I could run faster sometimes with as my person. So I'm speaking as my person. But about 5 years, they were maybe 5 or 6 years ago, they were here, and we kind of knew something was brewing. But they were talking about doing some local traffic stuff and turning MLK into a one-way. And so that was kind of like my first experience with them, and we knew something was going on with traffic. And then quite naturally with the growth that the county has had, I believe, tremendous overgrowth. They've outgrown the infrastructure here. And so they started having conversations again. And now this time around, FDO is here, and they want to do some significant changes, including the bridge, which is they're putting a new bridge, the DeSoto Bridge, and then subsequently potentially a flyover over First Street. And so that's how it originally came, and we were really concerned about the flyover for every reason in the world that someone would be concerned about a structure like that going through their community. So that's how it was birthed anyway.
How did this flyover bridge even come into play in the first place?
What they're saying is remotely that we know there's a traffic issue. Everyone knows that, I think, and they believe that putting a flyover in will help reduce the traffic and create more free space, so to speak, as it relates to traffic underneath where the local traffic is. So they presume this flyover will alleviate the problem.
During one of the meetings that I ran into you, you said, if I can remember the quote, you were going to probably be filing a lawsuit because to one of the organizations. Is that still under process that you're going to be doing this, or?
Yeah, quite naturally, we believe that FDOT has committed a civil rights violation, Title VI, 1964, due to their engagement strategy and their public engagement process that they use. Their First Street flyover comes in as the highest performer of all the models by their measurements. I don't know how they vet those or validate those, but they're saying that's what it is. And so they're saying that would be probably the most prime option because it moves the most cars. There's already infrastructure there. There's already a bridge there. We get it. But what they aren't saying is the potential carnage that goes along with running one of those through. True, you're going to move cars, but you're going to run it through a thriving African American business corridor that we have. Even though there's not a lot of our own business ownership there, that still doesn't negate the fact that the amenities are there for the community. And they destroy property values. We've got a church that sits probably 15 yards off the road that is almost 100-year-old church, St. Mary Missionary Baptist Church. They'll run that almost right over the top of, and they seem to be ill concerned. All the research states that these type of structures put up a psychological barrier between communities, and they disrupt the fiber of the community just by the presence of the structure alone. So there's a lot of things that go along with it, and so what they did was it seems like to us that if this was the primary option, or the one that moves it, you would at least have one public workshop over here to inform the community that, hey, you guys look like you moved some cars, more so than any other place. It seems like you would have it in that community, but instead they had them on the outskirts of the boundaries, away from the community. So our voices were never really truly recorded or heard. So that's the problem with the violation. So the process to get to that lawsuit, which I think and many others think, including legal minds, that violation did occur, it has occurred, and so basically they're trying to ram it. It appears that they're trying to just straight ram that down the community's throat, whether we agree to it or not. So that's basically it. So the process for the lawsuit is that we have to get state approval. They'll look at it, which they're looking at now. Then a conversation has to happen and a process has to happen at the national level of the NAACP. Once that occurs, if that occurs, which we hope it will, we think we've got some pretty compelling evidence that has been assembled by some folks for us and sent there, that they'll grant us permission to do so. And if we're granted permission by the national, we'll proceed with that lawsuit.
The
this is gonna be choppy. So
She's not here.
She's
I'm
not
just
here
gonna
yet?
go with her to maybe one of the apartments so she can get an idea of what the apartment looks like.
Okay.
So one of the people, going back to also with FDOT, did any representative speak to you or any members of the NAACP about maybe trying to solve this matter?
Not. If they haven't. I'm gonna say no because no one has sent us anything in writing. And saying something is nothing, because anybody can turn around and a little bit later and say, well, I never said that or I did. So I should say not. We did ask them at a meeting at St. Mary Missionary Church where the consultant admittedly in front of everybody, including one of the NPO board members, that they had done a terrible job of communicating to the community. During that workshop, they didn't even know the streets or the addresses during their presentation. They were saying wrong streets. They were all over the place and they knew it. They looked like really bad, and so they know that they've created a problem. One of the persons that may have been Mr. Massey admitted to one of our residents in the community that they made a lot of mistakes. They messed this one up by their own admission.
And for the African American community that is separate from the DeSoto Bridge, how many people do actually live in that African American community?
I don't know the latest numbers as it relates to actual population,
or as an estimate, do you have to say?
I'm not really sure, okay, as far as the exact numbers, but I do know a lot about the other elements of the community that are vitally important as it relates to being distressed. I can get that data for you because I'm sure Councilman Byrd would be able to kick that out there. There's several communities too. You got Washington Park, which is across the street on First Street, okay. Which is a slightly very well still connected even with First Street out there. First Street presents like a similar type of barrier to the fiber communities with itself, but so.
And predominantly a lot of African Americans in the African American community are really upset by this.
Yeah, I would say universally, yeah, because we with the historic nature of what these structures do to community, they have the ability to ruin your economics, destroy your the connectivity to the community. Like I said, it destroys people's property values. I mean, you had a house that was worth so and so, but now you put a flyover right through a big highway right through the middle of a neighborhood. It lowers those property values. So yeah, everyone's upset. And plus, it's right through the middle of even though it doesn't have the official designation, you're running it right through the middle of a historic black church district as well. There's 13 churches within a quarter-mile ring of the corner of First Street, and they many of them are over 100 years old. My church, St. Paul, which is probably less than a quarter mile from the juncture right here on MLK is like 130 or so years old.
Wow,
you know.
that's old. But it's been very historic.
Yeah, yeah, and it's one of the largest African American churches in the community. So it's St. Mary, the one that's most vulnerable.
Mhm.
Man, that flyover would be in yards of that church if they run it through. And they keep saying, well, we don't think we'll lose the church or this or that, but you're running a highway right over the top of the church, you know, and it's insane. And there's other options, you know. No one wants to talk about the 9th Street East option because it's right through Tropicana. There's a pretty significantly wide road for the business that Tropicana handles. It runs right through there, and they've got dilapidated, or used to be dilapidated, housing stock. Only a few homes that are on that path, but you know what's there? Pilote's grocery store, which is a old historic grocery store.
Right.
So you know there's gonna be some casualties everywhere, but let's not take out a whole business district for a community because we may not want to lose or figure out how to get around a community amenity, so to speak.
Well, you did just answer that question I was just about to ask about the 9th Street East.
Yeah. They're coming right back.
Okay.
Yeah, she'll be right back. Yeah. She went to show her Mary Warner's apartment. You good?
Yeah. So hopefully that the African American community and the NAACP will win the lawsuit, and
well, we prefer not even file it.
Or I mean, like,
Yeah.
hopefully you will get what
Yeah.
justice is served for that kind of scenario, and that everything will be settled and no one will have to deal with this situation ever
Yeah.
again.
Yeah, the bad thing about it, with traffic growing so much, I don't care where you move it, there's there's somebody not going to be happy.
Right.
No matter where you move it. But with the growth that we do curve, we think the community needs a third bridge anyway, because there's a couple third bridge
Right.
options that they don't want to talk about. But yeah.
How do other communities think of how do they react to that kind of scenario? Like,
What we're dealing with here?
yes.
Well, we've got the Rivera Dunes community in Palmetto, which is probably one of the more affluent communities here in Manatee County. They're opposing it as well because when it runs by them in Palmetto, they know it will lower their property values. And you're talking about $1 million homes,
Right.
So they're opposing it as well. So we've been in conversations with them too.
All right. Well, I think that's just about it.
You sure?
I think I got a good amount. I appreciate it. Thank you very much, Mr. Jones.